What Windows version should I choose? There's more than one? Yup, today we're going to dive into the performance difference between Windows 11 LTSC and Windows 11 Pro. What is Windows 11 LTSC, and how do I buy a key? Windows 11 LTSC is generally made for businesses and usually not available to normies like you and I very easily. It apparently has some performance gains that we'll be testing in this video. Another great point is that Windows 11 LTSC doesn't have the TPM requirement, but in normal Windows 11 there is a way around it if you use some commands or Rufus from memory. LTSC does not come with any bloatware as well, which is pretty handy, so no Microsoft Store bloat, no Xbox Game Bar, no pre-installed apps. If you do need any of that stuff, you can reinstall them if you'd like. Since LTSC isn't as easily available as normal Windows, I grabbed a key from the sponsor of this video, Keysworlds.com. Use the link in the description and you'll get 25% off Windows keys using BEZ25. For this video, since I'm wanting Windows LTSC, I'm going to pick that one or pick whichever one works for you. They even have Windows 11 Pro and Office licenses as well, which you'll also get 25% off using BEZ25. You can even save a little if you want to purchase Windows 11 and an Office license bundle together. I've tested Keysworlds.com before and I'll try it again here with the Windows 11 LTSC license. So I first select it, then add it to cart, type in BEZ25 for 25% off the Windows key, head to the checkout and fill out my details. Luckily enough, they have a secure PayPal checkout as well. They also have cryptocurrency checkout if you really want to do that, but I'm going to use the PayPal one. The key arrived within 10 minutes to my email and boom, it's there. I have Windows 11 LTSC ready to test out now. Simple, easy and fast. So head over to keysworlds.com for 25% off Windows license and Office keys using code BEZ25. Now that we know how to buy one, what specs are we using? For the Windows versions that we'll be using 25H2 for Windows 11 Pro, and for Windows LTSC, we will be using 24H2. Now I will be doing some retesting in the future with the 25H2 update for LTSC, so we'll have that video coming out soon as well. We'll be using two SSDs for this benchmark. So the first one is a 500 gig Samsung 860 EVO, and I'll be installing both the LTSC and the Windows Pro version on them. So they'll be wiped clean and then each operating system will be installed, and all of our games will come off the same drive. The games will not be installed on the OS drive itself, instead being on a Samsung 870 EVO 1TB SSD. All specs are listed on the screen, but I think it's important to note that we are using a Ryzen 7 7800X3D, 32GB of DDR5 6000 CL30 RAM, and a RX 9070 XT. Everything will be stock, nothing will be overclocked. There'll be no undervolt or anything like that. We'll be using a 3-run average for all of the games. Do keep in mind we will be testing at 1080p only, just because it keeps the benchmark CPU limited. Let's head on to the benchmarks. Starting us off, we have Counter-Strike 2 on 1080p. All of our tests will be on 1080p, and it will be on the low settings using the benchmark map from the community workshop. Now as we can see, there's not too much of a difference, but we did find that the LTSC version had better 1% lows at 291 compared to 272 on the normal Windows 11 Pro. Not much of a difference there. We'd have a slight advantage in terms of the average FPS though, in favor of Windows 11 Pro for 875 compared to 864. Next up, we have Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty on medium settings with no upscaling. Now, we had literally no difference here. Now, I was just running through the map as normal as I usually do, and if you guys don't believe me, I'll put the raw numbers up here as well. But yeah, literally no difference between the two whatsoever on 1% lows or average FPS. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered is up next with our very high settings on TAA with no upscaling. Now again, not much of a difference here. On our 1% lows, it was a FPS difference of literally 1 in favor of Windows 11 Pro and just a 2 FPS difference on our average FPS. Our next game is Marvel Rivals, and I found this one a little bit interesting to see how it worked out. Now we're using our medium settings on TAAU 100%, no upscaling, and we're using the in-game benchmark tool. Now as you can see, our 1% lows were significantly better on the Windows 11 Pro compared to Windows 11 LTSC. So we got 89 for LTSC and we got 129 for Windows 11 Pro. I'm sorry about the scaling here as well, but we can see there's only a 1 FPS difference between the average FPSs of the operating systems here. But this is one of the games where there's actually a decent amount of difference between the two operating systems in terms of 1% lows. Riftbreaker here was okay, and as we can see, there's minor differences between the two. A little bit more than compared to the other games. So we're on low settings with no upscaling again. So for our average FPS, we achieved 228 on Windows 11 Pro, and on LTSC we got 235. That's a difference of just 7 FPS. However, on our 1% lows, we can see it was quite a bit better on our Windows 11 Pro at 116 compared to 95 on LTSC. Kind of interesting here that our 1% lows were in favor of whichever operating system, and then the opposite was true for the average FPS. Last but not least, we have Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 on ultra settings with TAA native with no upscaling. So you can see here our average FPSs were actually the same at 130 for both, and then we can find that our 1% lows only had a difference of 3 FPS. So yeah, overall for most games there wasn't too much of a difference. Let's head on to our percentage difference graphs to actually see what we got. Next up we have our percentage difference graphs for average FPS of these 6 games. Now we can see there's literally not much of a difference between LTSC and Windows 11 Pro here, like whatsoever. The highest here that we have a percentage difference is 3% in favor of LTSC on Riftbreaker, and there's literally not much of a difference on the others. Sorry guys, I wish there were more to say about there being an advantage for LTSC, but I think I will need to go and retest with the LTSC 25H2 version because I am using 24H2, so I'd like to see what the difference is there. A little bit of a different story on our 1% lows. Now we can see there is a pretty large difference in favor of Windows 11 Pro. So LTSC on Marvel Rivals was 31% slower, 18% slower on Riftbreaker, and 3% slower on Warhammer 40k. Counter-Strike 2 was the only title that had a significant amount in favor of LTSC, being 7% faster. Now I do apologize for the formatting of these graphs. It's just that the percentage numbers are just so low it wasn't formatting correctly. I will try to fix this up for future videos though. So yeah, not really much of a difference in terms of average FPS, but our 1% lows saw a little bit of a favor in terms of Windows 11 Pro, 4 out of 6 games, or 3 out of 6 if you don't really want to count the Horizon Zero Dawn result, as it's pretty close to 0. There are some advantages like no bloatware on LTSC, which could help you in day-to-day tasks, but I'd like to retest this on the 25H2 manual update for Windows LTSC, as well as more games to see if there's more of a difference. In case if you're after a Windows key, Keysworlds.com does have you covered with 25% off using code BEZ25, link in the description. Not really the results I was looking for today, but I really wanted to see how this performed, and I thought it was cool to test the different operating systems like this. What do you think? Do you prefer Windows LTSC over Windows 11 Pro? Let me know in the comments. Check out wisetech.org for some more awesome content. But other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!